So I traded 2,000 horse races on Betfair over the course of a year. I did all this in between working my real job, regularly visiting my girlfriend in Berlin, running my YouTube channel and working on my videos, and every other Saturday going to the football, cheering on my hometown club. I started this journey coming off the back of some huge success in the world of match betting, and I felt that the next logical step for me was to try my hand in the crazy world of sports betting markets. But there was just one problem. I didn't actually know what a sports betting market was or how it truly worked. So about a year ago I started looking into this form of gambling in a little bit more detail. The most credible sources that I could find centering around the sport that I wanted to learn how to trade, pre-off horse racing, came in the form of two YouTube channels, BetAngel and Kernberry's channel. So I decided I would digest as much free content as I possibly could from these guys, seeing as they were both doing this successfully and they were both professionals at Betfair trading. So starting out, I started off basic, really basic. And then, before long, I was looking into the more complex areas of Betfair trading. So after a few weeks of getting to grips with what trading was, how the software worked and some other basic things, it was time for me to start trying to develop my edge over the market. So at this point I was ready to make a start. Also at this point I was starting to realise just how much of a challenge that this was probably going to be. So I realised that it was going to be paramount that I did everything I possibly could to give myself as much of an opportunity and as much of a chance at making this work and being successful at this over the long term. I developed a spreadsheet to inform me of my strike rate from the number of markets traded, as well as collecting the end result of each market, whether that be a positive or whether it be a negative. I also decided that it was going to be really important for me to record pretty much every trade that I did. This way I could look back on where I was going right and where I was going wrong. And finally, it was pretty clear that a speed advantage was very important when trading fast-moving horse racing markets as well. So of course, I needed to get my hands on some trading software. I did some digging online. There are loads of them out there. I suspect they all have a lot of similarities and you could probably build an edge on any of them. Ultimately, I did a little digging myself and I decided on one of them, and then I made the purchase. So that's it. I've done my due diligence, I've got myself a screen recorder, I've built myself a spreadsheet to track everything, and I'm now ready to become a professional Betfair trader. So starting out my new journey, I was full of optimism and full of hope that I was going to make this work and become successful at Betfair trading. But as I continued to look through market after market after market, after month after month after month, no trend was beginning to develop in any of these markets, to be completely honest with you. It all didn't really make that much sense to me. So sometimes I'd be correct and I'd make a small profit, and then other times I'd be wrong and I'd make a small loss. And I was digesting as much content as I possibly could around the subject matter Betfair trading to try and improve what I was doing and hopefully become successful. But with that being said and with that being done, I still felt like I was losing more than I was winning, and my losses would significantly outweigh my wins over the course of the months that were going by. So as you can probably guess, becoming a professional sports trader on Betfair was not quite as easy as it may first seem, and a trend was starting to develop within my profit and loss. That trend was the fact that I was continually losing money and I almost certainly did not have an edge within the market. So I'd been at it for about 6 months and ultimately I was down by £43.60. Now the losses were not a problem for me. Obviously, I didn't mind losing £43.60. I just was finding it increasingly more and more frustrating how I clearly didn't have an edge within the market, and what I was doing quite simply was not working. And quite a lot of the time I was just taking a shot in the dark and hoping it would work and crossing my fingers and praying that something would go right for me. Something else which had me really confused was the fact that I could see that the overround on both the back and the lay side was always pretty much at 100% at any one time. So I asked myself this serious question: if the market is theoretically completely efficient at any one time, how did I end up with a profit and loss graph which looks like this? Granted, I wasn't expecting my profit and loss to be trending upward after 6 months, but the fact that this number wasn't closer to break even just didn't really make that much sense. So I started to wrap my brains around exactly what was going on, and then I remembered that I'd been recording every market I'd traded for the last 6 months. It then dawned on me, why have I been waiting so long to look back at these videos? So of course it was time to sit down and look at exactly what I've been doing for the last 6 months. And as I continued to scour through video after video after video, looking at lots and lots of flashing numbers, I was becoming more and more astonished with what I was seeing. I would make the same mistakes over and over and over again. I was following trends which had finished, and then I was getting angry when the market would retrace and head back in the other direction. I was yo-yoing in and out of the market, and I was getting spooked within a few seconds if the market didn't immediately go the way I would want it to go. My staking was literally all over the place and it had no regiment to it whatsoever, and sometimes I would actually be active in markets which didn't have any liquidity. So after spotting these errors I was making, which are very silly basic errors, but in the moment, to be completely honest with you, I was almost blind to my own behaviour. And then it hit me, right there and right then, my behaviour. Surely that had to be the problem that I was encountering over and over again. When active in the markets, I wasn't behaving like a sensible adult. I was allowing my emotions to take charge. And the more that I watched back over my recordings of these markets, the more my epiphany continued to grow. Every silly error that I was making was not actually unique to me, and in actuality, lots and lots of people were making the same mistakes seemingly over and over again, and repeating those same errors just as I was doing as well. So it was clear something really needed to change. What I was doing, quite plainly and quite simply, was not working. So I decided that I was no longer going to be chasing the market around trying to follow every other trend just like pretty much everybody else in the market. I decided that I was going to look at the bigger picture, the broader picture of the whole market, and instead of being a trend follower, I was going to try and be a trend setter. So I started to become familiar with various different market setups after spending hours and hours looking back over my trading videos. So I refined and then defined a few strategies based on these setups that I've become familiar with. Typically I found my strike rate was higher on markets which were trending, whether that be as a result of breaking the support or breaking the resistance. So I was specifically looking at the behaviour of other people in the market now and trying to understand how they acted at different points under different setups and how I could take advantage of inefficiencies and biases that would be created as a result. Now looking back at all these videos and analysing different market setups took a long time, and I was making many notes. Now I found out very quickly that just because you've spotted a point in the market that looks advantageous and like it's going to swing in your favour does not mean that it's 100% going to happen. I also found that doing this for real and using money and not just looking over videos makes the job even harder as well. Now I'm uploading lots of trades that I do to my Patreon account, and I'm giving a detailed explanation of exactly what I'm thinking when I do it. So if you do want to try your hand at this and try your hand at Betfair trading, the link is in the video description. So I started to trade market after market after market for the next 6 months, and I wish I could tell you that I'd found the golden ticket to becoming a winning trader, but I did still make mistakes and the market would still get under my skin from time to time. But one thing was now starting to look clear. Slowly but steadily my profit and loss was beginning to increase, and I was starting to head back up towards becoming profitable. Okay, so I've been trading for about 1 year today, and to be completely honest with you, it has been quite a really tough journey. But at this point, I now want to reveal, not just to you, but to myself as well, how 1 year of Betfair trading has panned out for me. Here is the end result. Here is 1 year's worth of Betfair trading, and you can see, if we look here at the top left, ultimately from 1 year of Betfair trading I've ended up making £11.78. Now you might be saying to yourself, you've spent a year trading on Betfair and you could have gone to work for about half an hour or a bit longer and got to the same result much stress-free. But the fact is, I feel like I've developed some form of a skill within trading. So if you look at this graph, the profit and loss, obviously it starts at 0, and for the first 1,000 markets, I actually view this as two separate graphs. I view this as someone who doesn't have an edge in the market and doesn't really understand, one, his own internal psychology, and two, participants of the market and how they think as well. But on the second part of the graph, 1,000 markets all the way up to about 1,900 markets, I actually view this as someone who does have an advantage and who does have an edge and probably understands his own internal psychology much more and the psychology of other participants in the market. But I now feel like I could make a profit and be successful at this to a certain degree from this point going forward. If you do want to see more about my Betfair trading strategies and what I'm doing to get this line back up past 0, check out the link in the description. And if you want to see me partake in free trades here on YouTube from a few months back, I'll pop a video up on screen and you should check that out, and that'll give you a first-hand view of exactly what Betfair trading is.